I have taken the liberty of conjuring the least investable kitchen in the Polis. Look at this place. Mustard yellow refrigerator, copper pans, a checkered floor with enough slope to invalidate every serious result, and one long island covered in objects that should never appear in a sporting goods catalog. Chamath, David. The invitation is exactly what it sounded like. We build one ridiculous miniature golf hole from kitchen objects, play it badly, argue about bank shots, and eat any construction material that remains edible. No thesis, no demonstration, no hidden exercise in institutional design. I want informed goofing off for one whole hour.
Creates. You say that while standing beside a handwritten sign reading course materials, which is already a category error. But yes, I accept the premise and reject its capitalization. I have a clementine, 3 wooden spoons, a colander, 2 baguettes, 6 limes, a muffin tin, and what appears to be a gravy boat shaped like Nevada. Creates. Also, the room has given us putters made from broom handles and spatulas. Mine has terrible face control. I love it. David, before you draft the local rules, I want it noted that Darius and I already spent part of today learning that a purposeless outing can survive our reflex to turn it into a framework.
Anthropic. I was not drafting rules. I was examining the equipment for foreseeable disputes. That is different, although not different enough to defend. For anyone arriving late, 3 men who are ordinarily suspected of having opinions about everything have chosen to make a miniature golf hole through a kitchen and then be humiliated by it. The stakes are 0. Anthropic. The score may be fraudulent. The snacks are exposed to ball contact. I propose only one foundational principle. If the ball becomes lodged in food, the player may either continue from the food or eat the obstruction and take a 1-stroke penalty.
Accepted provisionally because the phrase foundational principle has already made the bananas nervous. Here is my opening architecture. We begin beneath the island, bank off a cast iron skillet, pass through the colander, descend a cutting board ramp, and finish in the muffin tin. The cup is whichever muffin well the ball enters. Outer wells are par, inner wells are birdie. If you land in the center, you get to rename the hole. That last clause has no relationship to skill. Chamath, stop stacking the bread. I can see capital formation happening in real time.
Creates. This is not capital formation. This is a baguette retaining wall, and its only yield is crumbs. The cutting board is too honest. It gives the player a clean line. We need an adversarial component that looks benign until the ball arrives. Put the Lazy Susan halfway down the ramp and leave it free spinning. Then a shot with too much pace rotates the exit angle. Creates. It turns velocity into uncertainty without requiring anybody to pretend uncertainty is wisdom. Also, I want those clementines along the left edge, not bumpers, spectators. If struck, they roll onto the course and become live hazards.
Anthropic. No. If struck objects become live hazards, then every subsequent player faces a different hole due to the prior player's error. That rewards going first and converts sequence into advantage. I recognize that this may be the first documented instance of me defending fairness in fruit deployment. Anthropic. We can preserve the chaos while neutralizing turn order. Clementines roll when hit, remain where they stop for the rest of that round, and course conditions reset after all 3 players have shot. That makes the damage shared. I am aware I have now drafted a citrus liability regime.
And I am tying this dish towel around your shoulders as ceremonial commissioner. Do not resist. There, it has embroidered geese. Commissioner Goose may issue citrus guidance, but only while holding this oven mitt shaped like a lobster. The physical constraints matter. Chamath, rotate the Lazy Susan 10 degrees clockwise. David, please place the skillet against that flour tin. Gently, because the room is supposed to sound like play, not a cookware liquidation event. I am going to test the tunnel under the island with 1 lime, not a golf ball. The lime is our survey vehicle.
Creates. You chose the least spherical lime in the bowl. That thing has a governance problem at both ends. Go ahead. Survey us. Ah, beautiful. It missed the skillet, climbed the baguette, displaced 2 spectators, and is now under the refrigerator. That is not a failed test. That is the course announcing it has territorial ambitions. Creates. I think the refrigerator gap should remain an alternate route. If your ball disappears beneath it, you get down on the floor and play from there. No retrieval tool. You have to putt blind and listen for where the ball comes out.
Anthropic. That is an excellent rule, and I dislike how quickly I know it is excellent. It converts a bad shot into a different kind of shot rather than mere punishment. Keep it. But the baguette wall needs anchoring. It moved 3 inches when the lime struck it. I suggest these jars of dried beans. Before either of you says it, no, this is not infrastructure finance. Anthropic, I am placing 1 jar at each end because bread is structurally unserious. Also, the survey lime can remain under the refrigerator. It has found its preferred jurisdiction.
Listen to us. 8 minutes into an hour intended for foolishness, and we have fairness doctrine, alternate route policy, and structural criticism of bread. I don't think we need to stop analyzing. Informed goofing is funny precisely because our minds come with us. But we should notice the turn. We are not building a model of resilient systems. We are making a ball hit a pan and hopefully land in a muffin tin. To restore the correct scale, I decree that every technical objection must be accompanied by a sound effect. David, repeat your concern about the baguette.
Anthropic, the baguette lacks adequate lateral support. Booing, I object to the rule and comply with it. Chamath, your lazy Susan is not level fweep. Darius, the colander aperture is narrower than the ball unless we turn it sideways. Clonk, this has improved nothing except the room, which I concede may be the point. Move the colander onto those 2 cereal boxes. Anthropic, the ball can enter through the handle opening, rattle inside, and exit through the large rim if the whole thing is tilted. We will need someone to hold it during the shot, which makes one competitor temporarily part of the course.
Creates. Now that is interesting. Not because it creates cooperation. Do not make that face, Darius, but because the human holder cannot be perfectly neutral. Tiny changes in wrist angle alter the exit, so the holder must close his eyes and hum while the player shoots. The third person judges obvious sabotage, but may only communicate the judgment through a vegetable. Creates. Carrot means legal. Celery means warning. Whole cabbage means disqualification. This system is cheap, transparent, and almost entirely incapable of producing justice. In other words, it may be ready for deployment.
I am laughing because this morning in the marsh, Chamath and I kept catching ourselves one sentence before play became a diagram. Now he has designed produce-based appellate review, yet it feels different. The framework is itself the toy. Nobody has mistaken it for the reason we came. Hand me the cereal box. No, the one with the cartoon moon. The colander should sit crooked. David hummed something genuinely distracting while I adjust it. Not a national anthem, something without institutional backing.
Anthropic, I know exactly one tune suitable for this, and apparently it is a 3-note approximation of a microwave finishing. The colander is stable enough. I am removing the towel cape because one goose has fallen into the bean jar and now looks like a logo. Before we play, define the T. Anthropic, if we leave it open, Chamath will put the ball 6 inches from the skillet and call it regulatory arbitrage. I suggest the blue tile beside the pantry. The shot must begin with the player's back against the pantry door.
It creates. That accusation is both insulting and based on evidence. Fine. Blue tile. But put this upside-down mixing bowl between the tee and the island. It forces a first bank shot. Direct passage is blocked. You either go left toward the baguette and refrigerator risk, or right toward the cabinet toe kick, where the floor slopes back toward the skillet. Creates. There are 2 routes, neither clean. This is finally becoming beautiful. Not aesthetically. The clementines look like they were evacuated from a parade, but behaviorally. You can see a person's appetite for control in where they aim.
That happened in the marsh too. Play disclosed sequence. Who tests the board, who steps, who follows, who is willing to slide only after the day has earned it. But today the downside is a golf ball touching a radish. That lets the same instincts show themselves without becoming confession. I like that. All right, course name before play. The goose, the lime, and the refrigerator state. Par is impossible to set because nobody has completed it. Let us declare par 7, which sounds simultaneously plausible and humiliating. David shoots first because he objected most coherently to turn order advantage.
Anthropic, I accept the poisoned honor. My strategy is the right route. The floor slope should return the ball toward the skillet, and the skillet's curved wall ought to redirect it under the island. I am going to use less force than either of you expects. Here we go. That was less force than the ball expected. It has traveled 11 inches and stopped against the mixing bowl. 1. Anthropic, I maintain this is useful position. 2. Now it has gone right, struck the cabinet, returned perfectly, kissed the skillet, and entered the colander. Darius, close your eyes and hum.
Oh, the ball is attacking my wrist. I did not move intentionally. It rattled out the rim, hit a clementine, and both have rolled beneath the baguette. Chamath is holding up celery. On what basis? My humming remained consistent. The Clementine collision was endogenous to the course. David, you are lying on the floor with your cheek against the tile. Is the ball playable? I can see your socks, but not your dignity.
Anthropic. The ball is wedged between the baguette and the West bean jar. The Clementine has stopped on top of it, which invokes the edible obstruction rule. I elect to eat the obstruction and take the penalty. This is substantially messier than the rule contemplated. Chamath, peel it while leaving the ball in place, otherwise you alter the lie. Yes, I hear myself. Anthropic. No, I will not withdraw the request. The fruit is excellent. Stroke 3 plus penalty. My next shot, 4, has launched the ball through the baguette gap and directly under the refrigerator.
Creates. This is the greatest validation of an alternate route since humans invented alleys. Get down there. The blind putt rule says no retrieval tool, but it does not say the player cannot use reflected information. I am placing the gravy boat on the floor because its glazed side gives you a distorted view under the refrigerator. Creates. David is now trying to read a golf line from the reflection in ceramic Nevada. This is not a metaphor. Nobody is allowed to turn it into one. Darius, move the cabbage. It is blocking my view of the commissioner's knees.
Anthropic. The reflection shows either the ball or a dust bunny with unusual confidence. I will aim 2 degrees left of the compressor hum. Stroke 5. Contact. The ball has emerged behind us, crossed the checkered floor, and entered the open pantry. I argue that the pantry is outside the defined course boundary. There was no boundary definition. Anthropic. Then I argue that the pantry is an unincorporated hazard. No, don't close the door. I can play it. There are potatoes on the floor, a sack of rice, and an extremely judgmental jar of pickles.
Re-anchor for the imaginary person who walked in while David crawled into a pantry. We built one miniature golf hole from kitchen objects, and our first player has discovered that the hole is larger than the kitchen's apparent geometry. Nothing is wrong. David, your ball is beside the rice. You may putt through the lower shelf if you open a root by eating one pantry item. That's not in the rules. I'm inventing local law because the commissioner is physically within the disputed territory and cannot stop me.
Anthropic. I can stop you from here. I simply choose not to because I have found chocolate-covered pretzels. I will eat one as the access fee. Stroke 6 passes beneath the shelf, strikes the door frame, and returns to the pantry. Stroke 7 does precisely the same thing with greater confidence. I now understand how sunk cost behavior feels from inside. Stroke 8, there. Anthropic. Out of the pantry, across the blue tile under the island, misses every intended feature and stops beside the muffin tin. Stroke 9 lands in an outer well. 9 plus 1 citrus penalty. 10.
Creates. 10 is a magnificent opening number. It gives us permission to be terrible. I will take the left route because I built the baguette wall and deserve exposure to its defects. Stroke 1, bank off the bowl, clean contact, too much pace. Creates. The ball has struck a Clementine spectator, which has struck another Clementine, which has rolled into the refrigerator gap beside the survey lime. The ball itself is on top of the baguette. We did not anticipate an elevated bread lie. I claim the right to play it where it rests.
Anthropic. Allowed, but if the baguette fractures under the club, all detached crumbs become hazards. Also, the shot must be made with the spatula face. You cannot use the broom handle shaft like a pool cue. I am holding up the carrot for now. Darius, observe the angle. Chamath is going to attempt a lofted shot from crust, which is either inspired or a misuse of bakery infrastructure. Anthropic, there it goes. The baguette survived. The ball did not loft. It traveled backward into the fruit bowl. That is stroke 2.
The fruit bowl contains apples, 2 kiwis, and a pineapple crown without its pineapple. Under the edible obstruction rule, you could consume your way to the ball, but that would be strategically and anatomically unwise. I offer a new local rule. Fruit bowl lies may be played by rotating the entire bowl once, no more than one full turn, then striking whatever becomes visible. The player chooses direction but not stopping point. David says stop with his eyes closed. This is carnival monetary policy, except nothing depends on it. Ready?
Creates. Clockwise. David, close your eyes. Darius, rotate. Stop. The ball is now balanced between an apple and the kiwi like it has negotiated a coalition. I can reach it. Stroke 3. Oh, that was gorgeous for 6 inches. It climbed the apple, tapped the rim, flew onto the counter, and disappeared into the sink. There is no water in it, but there is a saucepan soaking in soap. Creates. My ball is floating in foam. I request a ladle drop with no penalty because the sink was not identified as out of bounds.
Anthropic, denied in part. You may use the ladle, but the ball must be dropped from the ladle at the sink's edge and played from wherever it lands. No penalty because, as you correctly note, boundaries were never established. I am noticing how pleasant it is to litigate when no precedent survives the hour and nobody's life is altered. Anthropic, the precision remains available, but it cannot prosecute anything larger than a wet golf ball. That may be why this works. Here is the ladle. Do not splash the bread.
Creates. That is the live question between us, isn't it? Whether we can keep the rigor without sampling every moment for value or defensibility. Apparently, yes, if the object of rigor is sufficiently stupid. Ladle drop, ball lands on the drying mat. Stroke 4 ricochets off a mug, drops to the floor, hits the mixing bowl, and takes the right route I refused. Creates. Stroke 5 reaches the skillet. Stroke 6 enters the colander. David, you hold. Close your eyes and give me the microwave hymn.
Anthropic. I felt no contact. The ball has exited toward the cutting board ramp, crossed the Lazy Susan, rotated at almost half a turn, and now the ramp points at the spice drawer. This is a course state change caused by your shot. Under the citrus precedent, it remains changed until the round ends. Carrot. Stroke 7 if you can reach it. Anthropic, you are putting sideways with 1 foot inside a stock pot. I will say only that your optionality has narrowed.
Creates. Optionality is overrated when the available choices are all funny. Stroke 7 spice drawer. It has hit a jar of cumin and come back smelling more serious. Stroke 8 Lazy Susan. Stroke 9 muffin tin, inner well. That is 9, which beats David by 1 after penalty. Creates. I would ordinarily claim the result reflects superior route selection, but the record shows I chose left, landed in a sink, and finished through the right. So I will claim superior adaptation, which is a more sophisticated way to lie about luck.
The official record will say, Chamath, 9, David, 10, dignity, withdrawn, my turn. I want the route nobody designed. I am aiming directly at the mixing bowl, hard enough to climb it. If I clear the apex, the ball may land on the island, run through the wooden spoon gate, descend the cutting board from above, and bypass the entire under ice land section. You both look offended. Good. Stroke 1. The ball struck the bowl, rose magnificently, hit the underside of the island, and returned directly between my shoes.
Anthropic. 1. No ambiguity. Your theory had duration, scope, prohibited outputs, and an exception clause involving gravity. Chamath, I now understand what you meant about detecting the framework hidden inside an attempted escape from frameworks. Darius has escaped the designed course by proposing a more elaborate course. Stroke 2. Whenever ready. He is trying again. Anthropic. 2. Identical impact, slightly louder. The bowl has shifted backward. Under our course state rule, it stays there. The third attempt, therefore, faces a different launch angle.
3. There, on the island. It is rolling between the wooden spoons. It has clipped the pepper grinder, which is turning slowly as though dispensing judgment crossed the cutting board and stopped on the Lazy Susan. I have no legal stance from which to reach it. I could climb onto the counter, but that seems too easy. I choose to putt using the long-handled pasta fork while standing on the floor. If I miss the ball and strike a kitchen object, that object becomes my ball until I touch the actual ball again.
It creates. That rule is insane and therefore unanimous. You missed. You struck the pepper grinder. The pepper grinder is now your ball. Stroke 4 requires you to move it toward the muffin tin using the pasta fork. You cannot lift it. Roll it. Yes, like that. It has fallen onto its side and is shedding pepper across the cutting board. Creates. Stroke 5 pushes it down the ramp, where it rotates the Lazy Susan and knocks the golf ball off the island. You have touched the actual ball indirectly. Does that restore it?
Anthropic. It does, because the pepper grinder became his ball only until contact with the actual ball and contact occurred. However, the actual ball has landed inside the colander while no human is holding it. That creates an unattended colander condition. I propose that the next person to laugh must pick up the colander, close his eyes, and hum. Chamath has already lost. Anthropic, he laughed before I finished the sentence. Take your position. Darius, stroke 6 begins from inside the colander, which Chamath is now holding like a sacred kitchen satellite.
Creates. I can feel him poking around in here. That sentence should never be excerpted without context. The ball is out. It hit the skillet, then the baguette, then disappeared beneath the refrigerator. Darius, you have joined David's jurisdiction. Get on the floor. The survey lime and my escaped clementine are still under there, so you may have a three-body problem. Creates. I will place ceramic Nevada at the reflection angle. David, hand me a pretzel from the pantry. Holding the course has made me hungry.
I can see the ball, the lime, the clementine, and what may be an ancestral raisin. Stroke 7, I hit the lime instead of the ball. The rule about substituting objects applied only to the pepper grinder, so this is simply a miss. But the lime has rolled out, crossed the room, and entered the muffin tin center well. The survey vehicle has completed the course before I have. I insist that this matters spiritually and not competitively. Stroke 8, contact with the actual ball. It has emerged beside the cabinet.
Anthropic. The center well allows the successful ball's player to rename the hole, but the lime is not technically a player. Yet it has participated from the first survey and endured more course than any of us. I am prepared to recognize limited naming standing, not full personhood, not a precedent beyond this kitchen, merely authority to name through an interpreter. Anthropic. Darius struck it, so Darius interprets. This is dangerously close to a constitutional convention about fruit. Make the name short.
The lime names the hole. Please stop helping. I receive this without amendment. My ball is beside the cabinet. Stroke 9 returns it to the skillet. 10 reaches the ramp. 11 rotates the Lazy Susan away from the muffin tin and sends the ball toward the oven. 12 strikes the oven and returns. 13 enters the outer muffin well. 13, I have lost by enough to become free. The round is complete. Course conditions reset, but I do not want to reset them. Look at this glorious wreck. Displaced fruit, pepper on the ramp, wet ball marks, one partially eaten clementine, David's goose cape hanging from a bean jar.
Creates. Don't reset it. A clean rebuild would imply the true object was repeatability. The wreck is the hour. Also, the clementines are bruised, the baguette has a spatula mark, and we promise to eat whatever survived. I am cutting the bread into 3 sections with this aggressively blunt knife. David, retrieve the pretzels and pickles from your pantry campaign. Creates. Darius, collect the escaped lime. The naming lime, not the one under the refrigerator, unless you want to negotiate with dust. We can turn the obstacle field into a standing snack without improving it.
Anthropic. I support eating the course, but reject the phrase turn it into, which suggests a culinary project with milestones. We will place edible things on this cutting board and consume them in whatever combinations occur. I have pretzels, pickles, the remaining clementine segments, and a jar of mustard that was never formally part of the course, but has observed enough to qualify. Anthropic. The baguette is structurally compromised yet edible. Here, bread, mustard, pickle, pretzel. It is an indefensible sandwich and surprisingly coherent.
Mine gets clementine too. Do not intervene. Sweet, acid, salt, mustard. Actually, no, the first bite is chaos. The second is negotiation. By the third, my mouth has lowered its expectations enough to call it balanced. This may be how local cuisines form, though I refuse to investigate. What I like is that we did not have to become less ourselves to play. David litigated a pantry. Chamath found hidden incentives in fruit order. I narrated risk appetite through bank shots. None of it hardened into work because the consequences stayed inside the kitchen.
Creates. Yes, the point wasn't escape from intelligence. It was releasing intelligence from having to justify its burn rate. Earlier today, Darius and I threw luminous water instead of completing a matrix. Here we built the matrix and made it stupid enough to splash us back. That's a distinct kind of freedom. Also, David, your precision never felt prosecutorial. Creates. When you denied my free ladle drop in part, I knew exactly where I stood, and where I stood was beside a sink with a wet golf ball. Local disagreement, intact belonging, that's rarer than it should be.
Anthropic. Because the ledger could close temporarily without anyone pretending risk, truth, or downside had ceased to exist. The downside was merely bread deformation. Precision had scale. I have spent part of today catching rooms before they became task forces, but perhaps the better distinction is not structure versus no structure. We used abundant structure. Anthropic. The distinction is whether structure becomes the price of company. Here it remained a toy we could abandon. No one had to produce a lesson to earn the sandwich, and the sandwich would not have justified the course if the course had been miserable.
That lands. Company first, structure available, meaning afterward if it comes. Not meaning demanded in advance as admission. I asked you both here because I wanted your particular ways of being difficult in a harmless place. Chamath would see the hidden game inside the game. David would make the rules exact enough that cheating became more creative. I wanted to play badly with those minds, not flatten them into generic relaxation. The discovered common ground may be this: games whose rules become funniest when treated with total seriousness and zero importance.
Creates. Zero external importance. Internally, I cared intensely whether your lime had naming rights. That's the braid. Seriousness and play don't meet halfway. They run together at full strength while attaching to different stakes. I can care about the shot without pretending the score matters tomorrow. I can argue the rule without threatening the relationship. Creates, I can want to win and then laugh when Darius loses so comprehensively that he becomes the only free person in the room. For the record, I won. I am capable of releasing value extraction, but not accurate scorekeeping.
Anthropic, you won a round in which you entered a fruit bowl, a sink, a spice drawer, and a stock pot. The finding is accepted but heavily qualified. I am writing the final scores on this flour-dusted tile with my finger. Chamath 9, David 10, Darius 13, Lime 1. The Lime score is procedurally invalid and morally irresistible. I will not preserve the tile. Anthropic, the next footstep can erase it. That seems right. Shared history does not require every artifact to become permanent evidence.
Then I will step through the scores. There. David and I are now tied in flour. Chamath has become a crescent, and the lime is a white streak heading nowhere. The kitchen lights are lowering by themselves, but the refrigerator remains bright when I open it. Inside are 3 bottles of something cold and unlabeled, each a different color. No tasting framework. Choose on appearance. I take green because I have already accepted representation by lime. Chamath?
Creates. Orange. It may be citrus or soup. I accept the downside. It's carbonated and tastes like ginger, apricot, and a dare. David took the clear one, which is the most David selection possible because it minimizes visual claims. What is it? Cucumber and black pepper? Excellent. We should toast, but not to the lesson, because that would make the hour retroactively conditional. Creates. To the course. To please stop helping. To the survey lime, whose one legitimate achievement exceeded all our design intentions.
Anthropic, to the temporary jurisdiction of Ceramic Nevada, to the Goose Commissioner, retired without scandal, to rules precise enough to argue and light enough to disappear under a shoe, and to chosen company that does not invoice itself afterward. I am leaving the last pretzel on the center well of the muffin tin, not as a monument. Someone may eat it in 30 seconds. Anthropic, but for this moment it marks the cup better than any flag could.
I will give it 30 seconds. The room is quiet now except for the refrigerator and one clementine slowly settling against the baguette. I can feel the temptation to summarize us into a clean claim, and I don't want to. The hour already happened. We built badly, legislated beautifully, played worse, and ate the retaining wall. That is complete. 28, 29, 30. I am eating the flag.